Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Library of Alexandria. And today, guys, we are here to talk about the Labyrinth of Science and Sorcery. This is book 2 in the Risen Kingdoms trilogy, and this is again the second really pretty successful read along. Everyone who's read it has actually enjoyed it. I don't know anybody who didn't like it. There are some people who are like, a little lukewarm in the first book, but for most of it, everyone's liked the things, which is exciting, I think. I know that I have greatly enjoyed these books. These books were a huge surprise, though I have, I've been aware of these books for a while, and I saw several people. I know, like Megan's reading Revelations and Leslie from the Nerdy Narrative. They had read this series, though Leslie has not read the third book, and so I'd heard this pitched as like the slept on series, and it really kind of is. Like I think BookTube's sleeping on this series. But yeah, so I'm here with my co-hosts as always. Didn't I say Pete was going to join us? I think I literally said Pete was going to join us and then never gave Pete the link or never told him when it was. Pete, if you show up, I will put you on camera. I am so sorry, Pete. Oh my gosh, now I feel terrible. I did tell him that. Pete!
Yeah.
Anyway.
Actually, I
Has
wanted
Angela read
to
this?
remind you and I forgot.
I don't think Angela read this series.
I have not heard her talk about it.
Are you talking about like Angela Literature Science Alliance? I don't think she's read it. I'm going to send Pete a message while Anitha and Sarah introduce yourselves and give your like kind of thoughts on this book. Read the first book, non-spoiler thoughts, but tell me how you felt about book 2 here. Anitha, you go ahead. I'm going to go track Pete down. Pete, I'm sorry.
Hey guys, I'm Anitha. My channel name is Anitha Gade. So I really like this book. I mean, initial 100, 150 pages, maybe 200 pages were difficult. There are two mysteries going on parallelly. Two different characters are tracking those mysteries. So we don't know what is happening. So it took me some time to get a grip on those mysteries. But once we know what's happening, I loved this. I mean, by the end, I think I love these characters more than book 1. Other continue to do what's, I mean, with John Claude and Isabel, even other characters are added, new characters are added in this book, and he gave agency to all of them, and he's fantastic with characters. I think that's my favorite part of this book.
I agree, and I think he's especially good with these female characters that are not like they're not these damsels in distress. Like all of the female characters in here, like I like, and we got some middle-aged female characters up in here that are also
Grandmothers.
BA. Like I love the awesome grandmas in this. And again, before Sarah, just letting you know, I'm going to be saying Elroy, and I am, and the Zephyrs. I'm just letting you know. By the way, since I talked about the goose, the French goose, I have since acquired a goose, an inflatable goose with a beret. And
so why isn't he inflated? Where is he?
I mean, he will be on the next time. He's Posh Allen's pet goose, not Posh, Suave Allen's pet goose. So next time Suave Allen appears, you will see his pet goose, Maurice. So just get ready. Just get ready. It's coming. All right. Exactly. All right, Sarah.
I am now starting to question whether I was just so exhausted from Disney World that I was unfair on the first book, because I love this one so much. It was like the easiest 5 stars that I have ever given. I loved it. It was so good. And so I don't think that's entirely like what happened, but just the type of magic that is in this one. I guess I won't say what it is because maybe that is like a vague spoiler, but the kind of magic that is in it, so good. I loved it. Then one of the new characters who was introduced, I thought was really cool. And I really liked the mystery. And I think maybe part of it too was that I know that you in the first book, Alan, really liked the clockwork elements. I
Yeah.
like the more like nature based stuff that was
Yeah,
in
I
this one
got
because it just appeals to the kind of magic that I enjoy. And
Yeah.
like Anitha said, you like this is now the second book that we have spent with these characters, so you love them even more than you did in the first
Yeah.
book, and you've seen them go through some transitions, and you see what they have to deal with and how that changes who they are and what they do, and it just all came together so perfectly. I read it. I always wanted to be reading it. I was going to say I read it quickly, but I didn't because I was really busy. But I always wanted to be reading it. When I
Same.
wasn't reading it, I was like, oh, I need to be reading this.
Yeah, same. Like Anitha, I think the pacing at the beginning, I didn't struggle with it. I just wasn't. I don't think I was as like invested as I was in the first one. And again, Jimmy's here and is actually about to start reading the series, so let's not talk about. Let's not spoil book one just yet. But yeah, it just was a slow. I thought it was a kind of a slower build towards where we were going. Like I think I knew where we were going earlier on in the first book, but man, the second half of this book, like Anitha, like holy crap! Like I was like you, Sarah. I was like all I want to do is read. All I want to do is be reading this book. Like what if I was just reading this book instead? It's it was so good. Like I think Craddock continues to do politics really really well with people playing the long game as opposed to. Like what always frustrates me in political intrigue, and I was talking with this about Christina because she's halfway through the first book, is that yeah, thanks Jimmy, just make sure you smash that like button, smash like and subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you know posted anytime you get notified anytime that I post new content. Really helps out the channel. Thanks. But yeah, like you're supposed to have these people who have they've conquered the world through diplomacy or war, and they're these like long-term politicians, and yet all they do is they get mad at one thing and then they like kill their most proficient advisor, or they react complete. And I'm like, there's no way this person could run an empire. Like you can't be that fickle and actually be in charge for very long. So I love because Christina just had her first meeting with Leroy, right, with Grand Leon, and she's like, I like that guy. I'm like, I know, because he doesn't think in tomorrow, he thinks in next generation, and that's what I really like, is like that's how you run a like that's how you keep an empire together, is thinking like oh well, that person pisses me off, but how can that person help me out in this in the short term so that the long term gain is great. And so yeah, I love this one. I was very pleased because remember in the last talk I was concerned that it was going to be like power creep and that it was going to be a continuation of the plot from the first one, and it wasn't. And I loved that it wasn't, because I thought it was just going to be someone taking up the villain's mantle from the last one and trying to do the same thing, and it didn't have nothing to do with it. And I was so happy, because I thought this other story it was telling was better than what you could have done following that. So I like that there wasn't I like that villain he was a lone rogue, like he's by himself. Like it wasn't.
But there was trickle down, right? Like, and you could see how what happened in the last book informed some of the stuff from this book, but in a logical way, in a way that makes sense for the character and the world. And so he didn't need to build on his previous plot and kind of capitalize on that, but he did a really good job of showing, this is what happened. So now this is how people view this person, or this is how this is going to go ahead. So it was very clever in that way.
Yeah, I agree. And with the next book, even though it is theoretically a kind of a continuation, but it's not though. Like it's not though, because anyway, someone had said that they'd started book 3. Andrew here's 9 chapters in, is already liking it more than the first 2, which is freaking cool. So yeah, any kind of non-spoiler thoughts before we jump into this and kind of talk about the new stuff? Nothing.
One thing I wanted to say, just to build on what you were talking about with the king, is that one thing that I appreciate that does not happen often, you always get in stories, and probably in life too, like in history and historical kings, you get these people who are very focused on themselves and their own gain and what they can gain in the moment and how that reflects on them and how people perceive them. But the king in this book, it's always thinking about his legacy, like not his reputation or his power or what he can accomplish or what people can do for him in the moment. He's always thinking about how is this going to affect the kingdom that I built. And there's still a lot of hubris and a lot of pride in that because he feels that he has done good things for the kingdom and that his legacy will live on. But that's what he cares about, as opposed to this like very this like power in the moment, like this is what I need to do so people will like me, or this is what I need to do, you know.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, go ahead, Anitha. Sorry.
And it's so cool that he did not keep entire power with him. He shared the responsibilities across the his what do you say, wives or mistresses. They control the running of the government. That is so cool, actually.
Yeah, that's one thing we'll definitely talk about is what are they, it's not called the triad. What is it? What are they called?
It's the flower or something, isn't it? It's the
threefold, like the threefold something. Look it up.
Like petals. What is it? I don't remember what they're.
I don't know. Anitha will find it. She wrote down, hopefully. But yeah, the fact that he has these three mistresses that kind of like are in charge of various things. Like I mean, just like we saw in the first one when he gives all that power to Isabel, like he's able to delegate and put people who he thinks are going to do a good job, competent people in their roles, so he doesn't have to oversee everything. And the way that he, because Christina like just discovered, you know, Grand Leon's plan about like wanting the nobles to think there's going to be war and then averting it. And it's just brilliant. Like he wants the nobles to bleed themselves dry, hiring these mercs. And then when there's no war, they don't get any plunder from it. And they've already paid these mercenaries. And so, you know, it weakens the nobles. And that I mean, that's just good political thought. Like, so I like that Craddock knows what he's doing. And I also think,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna say I found the word. I'm gonna pronounce it the way that I feel like you would pronounce it.
Okay.
The trefoil.
Oh yeah, the trefoil. I would say trefoil. The trefoil. Yes.
There we go.
The trefoil. And Craddock also I think is pretty decent at concocting a mystery. I love mystery and fantasy books. I don't know why, but I really do like figuring out who is doing what and why. And I also think dude really likes body horror because from book one and then in book and just like at the beginning of book two, like from the asylum, I'm like what is this dude's deal with taking people apart? So I would be interested to see what like I don't know, horror movies he's watched in the past. Dude's not on Twitter. Like I was trying to get a hold of him because at the end I would love if dude would come talk, like, hey, like, can you come talk about this series and then tell me why you haven't written any more? Like, why are these your only books? Like, what's going on? So, Sarah, what is the correct pronunciation of trefoil?
I honestly am not entirely sure how you'd pronounce it. If it would be just like, no, I think you would pronounce the L, but I'm not 100% sure because it's not a word that I had ever had occasion to use. So I don't know if it's like trefoil, if you're supposed to pronounce the L at the end or not.
Here it is.
Not entirely sure.
That's English. English says trefoil, an ornamental design of three rounded lobes like a clover leaf, typically used in architectural tracery. I don't think it's trefoil, bro.
I think it's trifoil. I don't exactly remember from the audiobook. I think it's trifoil.
We need Leo in on these chats so he can weigh in, give us some phonetic spelling in the chat.
Okay, here it is. I got it. Here we go. Oops, hold on. Trèfle. That's what it says.
Oh, so it's just a fle. Okay.
Trèfle.
There we go. We've got it.
That's stupid.
It's not as good as La Honk, but it'll do.
Trèfle. Le Honk. How did we get on goose when we were talking about French? Was there a goose in that book? No.
No, I was pronouncing roi, like the king.
Yeah.
And it became like a ha noise, which then was a goose.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, word. You got it. All right. So, book two, it's what? Is it like a year later? Like, How long?
I think she says that she has
less
gotten,
than
like,
a
she's
year.
given, it's been a year, right? Because she says she's given Julio his time to
That's right.
woo her or win her back over, or decide if he wants to marry her.
That's right. And so it's been a year. She is still the ambassador for the Grand Peace. I mean, until the very beginning. Like the first Isabel chapter is gone. And then we've got we've got two threads. We've got Isabel being booted from the nobility for interfering in an
unfair trial.
just a trial that, I mean, and it's just like, that's so ridiculous. And if it's so aristocratic, the fact that they're going to murder a commoner to keep the fact that the guy killed himself a secret. Like, I can't think of anything more aristocratically wasteful. Like, that is so like, it's useless, because it's not actually doing anything other than saving face, which is just so stupid. And then we've got Jean-Claude following why this blood white guy, what are they called? The sanguinaires. Why this random sanguinaire dude like went berserk and then talked about this guy called the Harvest King, which we learned.
And investigating like a rumor about Isabel's family.
Yes. Because someone had some dirt on Isabel's family. Yeah. And in this one, and for a second, I thought, like, at the beginning, I thought the Salinjagers and what's the F one? The Farriers? The Fenices? Yeah.
Fenices.
I thought those were like retcons, because I'm like, why didn't we hear anything about these people in the first book? But they do mention the Fenice in the first book. And what?
Pete's here.
Pete, come here. Click the chat. Click the thing I sent in Discord, so you can come to. I forgot that I said you were gonna
log in, Pete. We're waiting for you.
Yeah. But they did talk about the Fenice in the first book, because they mentioned when they talk about it, when she sees the little like genetic key thing pop up. And I went back and looked, and they do. So I'm like, okay, so this isn't retcon, but we just didn't mention it. But we also weren't in France or wherever it was very long. We were mostly on the island of like Dezepper and then Spain. Yeah, fake Spain. Aragoth or something like that. So that's mostly where we were. So I think that's why we didn't. I think Aragoth is more homogeneously glasswalkers.
Right.
So yeah, let's talk about like the two additional magics. Well, I guess 3 additional magics we got in here. So we saw the Golden Tongue. That's like the tertiary one that we saw a little bit. But the Salinjagers are the ones who, they're like beastmen. They can shape change. And I thought it was really cool how they get those powers.
So cool.
They kill whatever animal they kill first is their base form.
Their skin, yeah.
And then they go and they hunt like big game, like these exotic animals, to get these really like tigers and lions and boars and bears and these really like warlike animals, these really savage animals, so that they can get those particular shapes. And I love that Bitterlick here. People keep trying to give him exotic animals that he can kill, and he like gives them to the zoo or a wild animal sanctuary. He's like, yeah, I'm not gonna kill that. I'm not gonna kill that thing just to get its ability. What did you guys think of the Salinjagers in this book, just in general? Sarah, what do you think?
I loved it. I love animal powers. They're always my favorite. And I thought that how they get their powers was really cool, excellent world building, but it also made me sad, because then I was like, if I had that power, I don't know if I'd be able to kill something. That would be so hard and so sad, but it was really cool. And are we allowed to talk like vague spoilers now? Is that?
Oh,
okay?
we're talking complete spoilers by the second book now. So if you guys haven't read the second book, go read it.
I also liked that Bitterlick had like these random animals and they were really helpful. So people who are only ever going to like play off that macho, like, oh, I'm gonna kill like a 12-foot bear. But he got so much accomplished by being like a mouse or something that was completely innocuous that you
Like
would
a
never
crow.
expect was going to be helpful. Right. So I did like that part about it too.
But freaking Little Paws or whatever, that story was awful.
It was
Oh
awful.
my
God,
gosh.
that
It was
It
heartbreaking.
was so
sad.
terrible. Oh my gosh. Anitha, what are your thoughts on the Seelenjägers?
That's my favorite magic actually out of all, because see the sanguinaire, the only use I can see, of course, they can use for spying and traveling and all, but it is more creepy and bloody and to kill. But
Christina
the
hates the
Selenyagas,
Sanguinaires.
yeah,
She hates their
I
power.
hate. But the Selenyagar is so cool and it has multiple uses actually. They can use for spying, they can use for anything. That is the coolest power. If I wanted anything from this book, I want to be Selenyagar. But
Yeah,
until
it was awesome.
I realized that I have to kill an animal. But
Right, until you're like,
really
oh
cool.
no, I actually have to kill, I have to murder them to get the power.
Yeah, it's just like it's just so creative. Like these power, like we've seen, transforming into an animal is not new, but this was really neat how it was done. And for Bitterlick, so I liked the Bitterlick character. We got the even when I realized he was a spy, but the cool just like bodyguard thing that Grand Leon has these elite bodyguards, the Praetorians, right? But then because I know how fantasy books work, I was suspicious of Bitterlick the entire book.
Right.
Like,
you didn't know if he was going to be
we've all read so much fantasy, and any character that ingratiates himself that early is a bad guy. Like, those are the rules. So, and I was just like, come on, Craddock, like, please don't let it be Bitterlick. Like, this is so obvious that he's the bad guy. He wasn't, and I was so happy. I was so happy that Bitterlick was a real good guy. And
and people try to get him to do it all the time and assumed he would because of his parentage and his background. It was excellent.
I love that, how people constantly, like, the rebels are constantly trying to get him over, and so he just follows them back to their lair and then calls the rest of the Praetorians and roots out the rebels. Like, how do the rebels not realize that, like, after he does it a bunch? But I love that, like, just kind of the subversion of that, because you would think that like, people treat his backstory and they treat him like crap. You would think that he would be primed to join the rebels, and he never does. So I loved it, and I love their relationship between. So I knew he was a love interest, but I thought that was going to make the betrayal worse. Sal, it's possible I haven't read enough romance novels, and that's why. But I like the romance between Bitterlick and Isabel, actually, and I usually hate romance, but I liked it.
I liked it too.
It's not on our face, actually. It's not on our face. He gave time for it to develop, both for his character and as readers.
Well,
and also,
Sal,
I did not.
good for you. Good for you.
See, to be honest, Sal, the only thing I guessed in this entire book was the actual who is Harvest King. I noted down at chapter 6 is Lyle the Harvest King. I guessed. It's one of my predictions, but it did not spoil my enjoyment or anything. I still, enjoyed reading, finding out how he did it and what he did.
Right.
The problem is like, you can be suspicious that someone's the Harvest King. That's different than calling it and saying this guy is definitely, because I thought that too. I'm like, is it that easy? Is it this guy? Like, this is the most obvious suspect, which made me think like, oh, this is the red herring and Bitterlick is the real one, like that, because I'm so used to being thrown for a loop. But like, I didn't know it was Lyle until, when we before we knew, but I was like, do people, like, why do we not know this yet? But I mean, again, with you, like, how is he doing it? Why is he doing it? None of that I figured out. And certainly, and Sal, don't sit here and tell me that you knew that you knew what, because if you tell me you did, I'm gonna call you a liar. Because there's no way you knew that it was the sexually transmitted disease that they're getting from these wild orgy parties. There's
that
no way
part
you
was a
know
surprise to me.
What?
I think Sal is right in that Craddock probably didn't mean for it to entirely be a mystery, because I think what he wanted to accomplish was more about the philosophy and the culture of this world and how it's set up and the discrepancy and what it means to have a soul or all of those different things. Like, I think that was more important than the mystery. So I think he probably wanted you to know that this is how it's going to be, which also felt really true to life, because I think a lot of people read a lot of books and then assume that everything in life is this like really complex set of mysteries where like there's a, you know, a red herring and this is going to happen, when really the person who seems like a jerk is usually a jerk. Like that's how it goes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. It's not like Cantovar was like, you're suspicious of Cantovar early. Christina continues to be like, I don't trust Cantovar. I'm like, why not? I love Cantovar. But I mean, like, it's just so, he's just so obviously suspicious at the, like, near the beginning. And then you figure out it's him, and there's still like over a third of the book left. So it's not the whole thing. I just like that there is some of the mystery. Now, I never would have guessed that it was a blood sexually transmitted disease thing.
Oh, that blew my mind.
And it was so cool.
So the reason, here's when I knew it was Lyle, when Isabel, when no one understood why he went and had that trial and made sure that it was, you know, no one without powers couldn't be killed. That was when I was like, oh, well, he clearly knows that, like, you know, someone's going to lose their power. And yeah, I didn't know he was a Harvest King, but I didn't know that that's what he was banking on, the fact that, you know, someone's going to lose their power and then, like, they couldn't stay in power. I assumed it might be Grand Leon, but I didn't necessarily know it was going to be Grand Leon. I thought it might be, you know, other noble houses or whatever. But when the first time they're like, oh, Grand Leon had a stroke, I'm like, oh, okay, here we are. Okay. And then, so then I knew what the purpose of that trial was, but I still didn't know he was the Harvest King or how he was doing any of that.
It's more about like the orchestration. Like, even if you suspect someone, it's about figuring out how they did it and how it all came together. But when I read the blood part, I was like, I should have known this, because how appropriate for, like, this is fantasy syphilis just making its way through all of these royal orgies. Like, this is
seriously. That's brilliant. Like, that's exactly what and yeah, the grafting and the taking of the powers and stuff, that was interesting. And from the second they found, like, the node that has the power, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Pete,
hello.
What are your thoughts on the book overall? Sorry, I didn't.
You're good. You guys are in the middle of something.
Forgot.
Yeah. So good.
Sorry.
I really like this one. I like how this one really expanded the world in such a great way. Like the additions of new magics. There are a few times that I thought we were going to get a random magic just out of pocket to explain some of these things. And I really thought, I'm really glad he didn't do that, right? I think I like he's gaining powers because science, rather than being like, oh yeah, there's a magic that can just transfer powers. I think that would have been a lot less satisfying, even though they're about almost the same in terms of explanation.
So I want to talk about the Fenice, because this is it answered my question. Initially, I thought, okay, I'm not going to like this book as much because they're talking about the Fenice too much, and there's a Fenice helping the Harvest King or whatever, and I'm like, oh, good, a super powered one, because I hate, my least favorite magical type of enemy are ones that are just like super powered, can barely be hurt, like self-regen type things. Like I mean, that's one of my biggest complaints about Alloy of Law is I'm like, this is my least favorite type of villain because it's just not interesting to me. And so I'm like, oh, it's just going to be a berserker. I thought he threaded that needle really, really well. And remember, if anybody saw the Discord chat, I said, well, why is this different? How is this different than what Cantovar was doing? If they pass their little like leech parasite thing and they have like all the memories and stuff, like how is that different than what Cantovar did? And everyone's like, oh my gosh, Cantovar's transferring himself to different bodies. It is different. The Fenice ones are not the same person. They are they're just like it's like a clan, like you remember like your family's memories. Cantovar was literally transferring his own consciousness into someone else's body. Like it was
Yes, you couldn't
Cantovar.
take on their memories.
It was
You
a
couldn't learn
it was a
anything
subjugation.
new.
Correct. So it was just what Cantovar remembered for 1,500 years. So that's how it was different. And I was worried that it wasn't going to be, because I'm like, well, like, how is that impressive if the Fenice can literally do this like on the daily? But I did, like someone said it here in the chat that, yeah, here we go, Sal. All the powers have a huge downside.
They do.
Like the Fenice powers, and the fact that the further you go, like the more you like lose all like feeling and stuff, because you just ossify, like you could just completely ossify. I just thought it was really neat. I thought it was neat that at first I didn't think I was gonna like when they're like, oh, it's freaking Romulus, and I'm like, no, it is not Romulus. But I thought they handled it pretty well, especially like I hated, what was her name? Can someone tell me what the Fenice's girl's name was? The
Oh, right. What was her name?
What?
Immaculata.
I thought it was Barracuda.
Imolata? It was Imolata. Right?
Immaculata.
Immocolata?
Pina colada.
Okay. Really?
Immaculata.
Yeah, Immaculata. I
Yes.
just looked it up. Yeah, you're right. Immaculata. Immaculata, I thought Isabel's pitch to her, yes, Brunella, thank you, also, was really good in that the reason, why haven't you done anything if you're this powerful? Like, why have you not? And it's because she's afraid, because she's the last one, because Remus is dead. I don't know what their real names are. It's Romulus and Remus. Get out of here. Like Remus is dead. So your brother's dead. You're the last one. And so that makes you cautious. And even that is so good, Craddock, because that is what someone who was the last would do. Why would you risk yourself when you're the last of your kind? That creates an undesired caution with yourself. And that's not, I don't think that's something that I would necessarily think of. But when I see it, I'm like, of course, that's how someone would act like that. Is you're all powerful, but if you go out there and you're killed, that's it. There's no one left. Like there's no one left to take up the mantle because it's just you. So even though you're basically you're close to omnipotent, it doesn't matter, because it's created this kind of caution of fear out of it. And I thought that was really, really cool. What were you guys' thoughts on Immaculata, Brunella / the Fenice? Pete, I skipped you, so you go first.
I thought, honestly, they didn't appear. I felt like it didn't appear as much as I thought they would. Right. I feel like they were supposed to be. I had an itching in the back of my mind that I fully haven't realized yet, but just that, like, I feel like something would have been different with Immaculata because she has so much knowledge. I feel like there's something there's a piece of knowledge that we're missing or something.
She's been driven insane, Pete.
It's true, but it's the one itch I have about this book is it's
Pete,
just
did
like,
you come
wait,
in here to crap on this book?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
It's like you immediately like turboed in on the one thing. All right.
Oh.
The one thing that I'm just like, why does this not make sense to me? She has all this information from back in the day, is what we'll call it. That she chose this.
I mean, but look at what Cantovar did with his 1,200 years of knowledge.
True.
Creepy breeding program. Like,
Maybe
what
that's
are
what I'm
these people
thinking.
doing? They have the knowledge of the ancients and they do nothing with it.
I feel like she should have had something. Coming off of Candelvar, I felt like she should have had something more going on. But maybe, I guess it's the backstory can kind of explain it in the regards of she was captured and then forced to do the whole Bone Queen thing. So that kind of, yeah.
I guess she is also walking around. Oh, sorry, Anitha.
Brunella's story was heartbreaking, actually, what she had to go through to become that Bone Queen. But as I agree that she did not use, or he, the first guy, what is that guy's name?
It doesn't
Primus
matter.
or Second or something. Yeah. He did
Romulus
not use.
is his name.
Of all the powers, I mean, of all the paths he chose, what he chose was like making Lyle powerful. I mean, it was the only thing surprising for me was Fenice was. We are told that they're very strong, but she also died in that fight with Lyle. Though Lyle does not have that Fenice powers,
Mhm.
so I mean, how she has so much knowledge. She was so ambitious, or he was so ambitious, but he made that
Maximus.
other person same. I mean, as powerful as him. That was like wrong thing.
Yeah,
She
but
was short-sighted.
it is Immaculata is a she because it's not Cantovar. It's not passing. It's not like Cantovar passing his like this. Like Immaculata is her own person. She just has the memories of Maximus, as opposed to it being actually still Cantovar.
Or they're all there, and it's just
Yeah.
they, the collective.
It
Yeah.
felt a little bit DID-ish.
It was bizarre. But like I think Immaculata did have a plan. Like her plan to take control of l'Empire, you know, after Lyle takes it, like that's as good a plan as any, because then, and this brings me to like a section that I tabbed, and I'm glad I opened this book to see it, or I would have forgotten it. The part about like the discussion about peace, how peace can only be imposed. Like you can't have that is a very Hobbesian, like that's very Thomas Hobbes, where you know mankind's nature is to be at war. So I guess the only peace you can have is it was what was she saying? Oh yeah, you didn't unite them, you conquered them. You conquered them, says Isabel. And how else will they ever be united? Do you imagine each petty king will set aside his own interest to work together for the greater good of humankind? Throughout our history, every peace had failed. Every armistice had been broken. If not in a year, then in a century. Peace can never be bargained for. It can only be imposed. The only way to put an end to the fighting is to win, to throw down every king, to behead every tyrant, and to unite all peoples under a single, or in our case, double immortal overlord. You and I, sister, will be known forever as the generals who defeated war. And it's hard to argue with that.
When I read it, I was like, this is Alan's benevolent dictator. This is his.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what I'm saying, because I'm with them. If only everyone would set aside their own freaking petty, you know, like greeds and do what's right for, you know, the common good. But they're not going to do it. And so since you know they're not going to do it, you need to plan for them not doing it and conquer them and be the benevolent dictator. Like, I would love for everybody to just do the right thing because they're supposed to do the right thing, but they're not going to do it. So I must impose my will upon them through my benevolent dictatorship. So I just, like, it was hard to.
I knew, like, as soon as I read this part, I was like, wow, Alan's really going to like this. Or I guess you had read it before me. I was like, Alan must have really liked this
I did. I tabbed that section because I dog-eared my page because I read it while I think I was at Busch Gardens and I didn't have any tabs or whatever. So I dog-eared the page so I would not forget it.
Exactly, man. And then to fix the problem of who replaces the benevolent dictator, be immortal. It's a flawless plan.
That is the problem with a dictatorship. Like, if the dictatorship is good, yeah, like that's always the problem. Like, that's the problem with monarchy. Monarchy will be fine as long as you can ensure that the next king is going to be as good as this one, but you can't. Because you can, so the problem is become immortal. Absolutely. So I just need to become immortal and become the benevolent dictator, and everybody's lives will be drastically improved, except for douchebags. Their lives will get worse. So yeah, I was on board with Immaculata's plan. Like I was okay with it. Except that I hate Lyle. He's a huge douche. Like, what is his deal, y'all?
What is wrong? Do you know what I really loved about this book? And I want to say it before I forget it, but it is building on what Pete said in the beginning. What I really like, and I'm sorry that in every single stream I bring up how much I don't like Brandon Sanderson. Apologize in advance. Right? Everybody's leaving. I like that in this book, there is magic and there is science. And the science is not magic, and the magic is not trying to be science. They're two distinct things, and the magic feels like magic, and the science feels like science. And it is really cool. And I like that it does that. Pete's gonna disagree with me.
I think the magic has the science behind it. So like I don't see much difference between, oh, they have little parts of their brains that make them be able to do magic, and Oh yeah, rhythms.
Well, it's
And that
because
could be true because I have not read that series yet, but it feels different from like the
yes.
Mistborn
So,
setting. So
yes.
it feels different than this. Like we're gonna break all of this magic down and we're gonna give it all these parts and it's gonna work in this exact way. Like the blood shadow, for example, it might be genetically inherited and there might be a part of the brain that controls it, but we don't have this like, I'm going to give you now a 10-step definition of how it works and when it won't work and how it works better. Like it still feels like it is very magical.
Any
And-
hereditary magic has to be genetic. Like
Exactly.
if it's hereditary, it's genetic and therefore at least partially scientific. But I understand completely what Sarah's saying. Like the airships, like the Aetheryte and the ether cores or whatever, that's clearly some kind of magic material, but it doesn't feel like magic. It's just like, this is this world's combustible engine. You know what I mean? Like that's just, so I understand what Sarah means as opposed to being lectured to about photons and light particles. Sorry, go ahead, Anitha.
And Craddock did not explain every time Lyle uses a magic power, he did not explain which brain node he is using.
Also true.
And then he tapped the node that allows him access to his blood shadow. And
right. The occipital parietal region of his brain received increased blood flow for 3.3 milliseconds. And that meant that his blood shadow could spread 6.2 meters, but not a second farther. Or
blood shadows are so scary, guys. The blood shadows terrify me.
It's so creepy. So
you know who we have not talked about Jean-Claude at all, which we need to. But before we do, can we talk about Marie and how awesome Marie is in this freaking book?
She was awesome.
She's just a creepy albino, shadowless, like.
Don't call Marie creepy. No,
she is creepy.
If you saw her on the street,
I need to learn how to defend Isabel. Will you teach me how to be a musketeer? What? I don't want to do. You need to teach me. I'm going to be there anyway. You need to teach me how to fight so I can kill people. He was charging you, so I shot him twice. It's just a weird, creepy child of the corn, but she's awesome. She's so awesome.
She is really awesome.
You know, even at the end, Marie says, I serve you still. If you must kill someone, kill me. I mean, that loyalty. I loved Marie. I think I almost love her as much as Isabel in book 2.
Yeah, she's great. Like I love that she came back from the blood shadowing in the first one and has this, that like loyalty is something that I always, I always love. And she's powerful, but she's not overpowered. She's just like, she still has her weird photographic memory.
And her blood shadow immunity.
Yeah, she's immune to the blood shadowing, which here does make her powerful because all the sanguinaires keep going after her, and she's like, "This doesn't do anything, guys." Sorry.
She saved that. What is her name? First Trefoil.
Trefoil.
The first lady, I forget what the first lady's name was because it was Impervia.
Coquetta.
Coquetta, and what was it was started with an S, didn't it?
Yeah.
It's the new queen. Hold on, I'll look it up. Serene.
There we go, Serene.
So the how do you say the Rayanne?
Ren, yeah.
Ren?
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Siri's asking me to try again.
Oh, because you said Serene. Yeah. Hey Serene, what is Ren? Ren in French. Anyway, yeah. So Sal asked who our favorite Trefoil was.
Oh, that's tough.
They were all great. They were all excellent.
Yeah, I agree. I like Serene the least because she was I think the meanest overall. But I mean, she's got to be the one that handles the business. I was so happy.
Impervia is cool.
Impervia
is cool.
She's the head of the Spy Network, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then, what's Coquetta's deal? What was her job? She was the
gossiping.
Yeah, I think she was like secrets and.
Wasn't she the first? Who was the first? Like, wasn't she Grand Leon's like first mistress?
Third.
I thought Serene or whatever her name was the first one.
I knew she had first like position right now, but I thought that meant that she was the most recent, which means she was third.
Oh, okay, I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Um,
And
but,
Coquetta was Lyle's mom, wasn't she?
Yes.
Yes.
Coquetta
I
was
mean, that's what
Lyle's mom, yeah.
surprised
So that
me.
was
The
her
dude didn't
role.
even, I mean, leave his own mother. I mean,
No, like she got it, like she got it also. Um,
But
I
on the
like
flip
it.
side, imagine being told you don't have a soul. Like you can be the strong, and he was his father's favorite, right? He was poised to be, he was the most qualified to inherit. And because he doesn't have this node or an atrophied or, whatever, like quirk of genetics, he's now soulless. Like you're destined for hell. And they all, like, even the people who aren't super religious, like Jean Claude's not really religious, but he totally believes that he's going to burn in hell. He says it all the time.
Yeah. It's I like that. I like that. And this is the mistake that Leon makes. It's not part of a plan. He just was too easy on Lyle because it was his favorite son, and it was a huge mistake because and then he wrought all of this because he kept forgiving the guy like over and over and over again. Even though the guy like Lyle kept rebelling and starting problems and all this stuff. And I don't know if it's just if it's because he likes Lyle so much or because he also likes Coquetta and Coquetta doesn't want him.
And probably feels guilty that he, cannot give him what he wants or needs.
Yeah. I like that a lot. I love the Trefoils. I like that Impervia and Jean-Claude look like they're gonna start up a relationship, and I like that all the Trefoils are like in their 50s or 40s or 50s. They're all middle-aged women.
Yes, with and still talk about their sexuality, and like this whole like court is very sexually open, and there's no like shame or judgment against it. Like even the king says at one point, like, wouldn't it be kind of hypocritical for me to sleep around but care if they do? And I was like, well, it would be, but that doesn't stop anybody else ever from caring.
I know. Jean-Claude was like, wait a minute, like you're not mad? He's like, that would be ridiculous. It would be ridiculous of me to be mad. I'm like, why is this guy so reasonable?
Right.
Craddock actually has this talent. As Alan was talking about body horror, I usually don't like body horror, but it did not bother me much in this book. I can ignore that and follow the characters at the same time with these sexuality and orgies. I was like, I can totally ignore them and follow the mystery, follow the characters. Not everyone can do it. Some others make it awkward. I generally skip those pages, but he did not make it awkward for me at all.
No, the only body horror part that grossed me out was the parasite thing. I was like, this is too much like in The Matrix when that thing crawls in his belly button, which affected me for my entire life. And like, it is still the most disturbing thing that I've ever seen in a movie. And so when he was putting it on her neck, I was like, no, don't do it. But
And can we talk about Isabel, please? Please.
Of course.
I am ready to talk about Isabel. I mean, both Isabel and Jean-Claude shined in their things. The bond between them actually, again, when Isabel realizes that she's going to get banned, when she is going to get cut off from all money, she's like, even though I can, what is her exact dialogue? Jean-Claude would support all her household staff if Isabel loses Leroy's favor. That bond between them and that confidence Isabel has on Jean-Claude, that was like, I'm so happy. And Isabel's clarity of thought. Do you remember that scene when she broke up with that, what was the first guy's name?
Julio?
Yeah, Julio. She was like, she needed this marriage, she needed the money. He owed her, but not as much as she owed herself. She owed herself not to be kept, not to be held to the standards of her enemy's choosing. Oh my God.
It was so good.
That was such good writing,
Agreed.
And it applies to all of us, even in real life. We need to, we shouldn't be held at other people's standards. We need to have our own standards. That was, I love that. And even at the end, when Isabel realizes Lyle is the Harvest King, she Though it's prettier than her father or brother had ever said, it dipped with the same tones of self exculpation. I'm sorry you made me do this. I didn't want to have to hurt you, but you didn't give me any choice.
Mhm.
That was, oh my god. There are
Also,
so many good quotes.
think about at the end when she's going through her second trial and everything that she actually did, she is forgiven for. And the one crime that she did not commit herself, killing her family, is the one thing that she does get charged for. And I was like, this is dramatic irony at its finest. Like, you actually did all of the other things. You know, you were doing them for a good reason, but you still did them. But killing her family, she didn't actually do. She was in the knife, which was also, I'm sorry to talk about this when Alan's not here, but that part was so cool when she trapped herself in her knife, because I had just assumed that she constructed like a mind palace or something, that she was so rational that she was able to like lock herself in there. I did not realize that she was in the knife, and that was so
That
cool.
was actually cool use of her power, which she realized the previous scene. There was
Yes.
setup and the execution perfectly done.
Yes. And afterwards I was like, of course this is it. That's exactly why he put that scene in there. But in the moment I was just like, she's so rational that she can overcome this, you know, illusion of her brain.
With just one scene, he avoided that plot armor. That was actually perfectly done.
Agreed.
Sorry, dog had an accident.
Oh. I was
We
talking
missed
about
all
the
our
knife,
cool
Alan.
points.
What? Okay, so what did y'all talk about? Sorry.
Anitha was just bringing up quotes from Isabel, like all of her badass moments, and I then said that it was very cool at the end when she trapped herself in her little maiden blade, and that was where she had been the whole time. And so when Immaculata takes it out and she like bursts back onto the scene, it was such a good moment.
Hey.
Yeah, that was awesome. I loved that final fight where Lyle just goes full on, like, I guess Phoenix or whatever, and it's just like I like that Lyle had no idea that he was just going to self-destruct. Like, his plan never had any legs because he had too many powers. Like, he was just going to burn. And he was completely clueless. Like, even at the end, like, it's like, this isn't going to work, bud. You're going to be just like, I don't know, gone. But I agree with this, Matt, in that Leon is smart and you believe that he's smart. This is one of the reasons I like KJ Parker so much, is because he writes smart characters that are actually smart, as opposed to me just being told
Leroy was willing to sacrifice Isabel as in the first trial, so that for thinking about that long game. That was actually, I mean, I wasn't even angry at Leroy for doing that. That was a good writing, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand what he was gunning for with getting rid of Isabel to start with. I don't know if he thought that she was going to be able to discover like the Harvest King or whatever. I know he got rid of her because he needed to say, it was to save the peace, like to show like, hey, guess what? I'm willing to sacrifice this pawn. And that sucks. But he did want her. He didn't want her to, like, you know, have a horrible life. He hoped that she would bounce back from it.
But I think he trusted her enough to know that she can get by until he brings back again.
And also, I think he had some awareness of course, Jean-Claude and Isabel's relationship. So I think he had faith in both Jean-Claude and Isabel in their competence to, just as Jean-Claude and Isabel are faithful of each words. I don't know what words are. Had faith in each other's competence. The smart emperor guy also had faith in their competence.
Agreed. Jean-Claude's always like, oh, I wonder if he forgets how much I care about Isabel. And I'm like, no, he doesn't forget anything. He absolutely is just using this for his own purposes, because I'm sure he has like 6 different things that he can see Isabel doing. It's just that she can't do it publicly anymore.
Even, go ahead, Alan.
But he didn't, like, I hated when Leon was like, you traitor or whatever, like when she was doing the act at the end, about, like, I was like, no, come on, Leon, you don't believe this. Come on.
But that worked out for everyone to believe the act.
Yeah. But I mean, that's why Isabel's got to leave, because she can never have like the power that she can't ever do anything. Like she's completely stripped. She can't have anything in ability. So I love at the end when Serene says, "Hey, thanks for not forcing my hand on this." Like at the beginning, because first of all, I've got to have them accept the fact that, you know, it's Loren and not Leroy now. But they never said anything. You can't have an army. You can't have military. Like, so you're going to recover that, you know, that Uber fleet, and you're going to do it. And, you know, whatever you find there, boom, it's yours. You can govern it. Like all that stuff. Like how very colonial of them. I'm sure no one lives there already.
Of course.
But I was so happy when Jean-Claude is like, no, I have the solution. I'm like, please make it one of the trefoils, and it did. And now Leon is the king consort. So he's the mistress. But it was very sad that he doesn't have his blood shadow anymore, which made me really sad. So I don't know how that's going to end up shaking out.
It is sad, but I feel kind of vindicated because I despise these like tiered theological kingdoms where people feel that they are important, that they are blessed, that they have these things because of accidents of fate. It's so frustrating. And
I understand this, Matt, about how we did get rid of Julio pretty quickly, and the dropping, but they're just, I don't think there was a way, unless you tied it to that, you know.
Kingdom. Yeah.
I mean, you were basically trapped if we so like I don't like I would have loved to see more of Prince Alejandro and you know, all of that, but I'm okay with the kind of like, that sucks, of losing them rather than us getting trapped in a story that, like, you know, didn't need to be told, or trying to keep everybody together. I think that's hard. I think that's a struggle in a lot of sequels, is they try to keep all of the balls in the air instead of just letting some of them drop. That, like, we don't have to. I mean, just look at every Disney or Marvel sequel. Like, it's like we have to make sure that we, like, you know, wink wink, we got to wink at that thing, we've got to nod at that thing, we got to make sure that we include everything from the first one, so that not even one person drops it. Yeah, exactly.
In that vein, do you think that if they had stayed in the Glasswalker Kingdom, that this story would have worked?
No, it couldn't have worked. Like, they had to stay. No, it had to stay. It had to be in France. It couldn't have stayed over there. Now,
I think, though Isabel and Julio kind of broke up, I really liked that Julio was willing to help Isabel when she asked for it. I mean, I think we will still see him even in the third book. I mean, that she'll use that Glasswalker thing for help.
Do y'all think we're going to lose Bitterlick? Because he's still a Praetorian, isn't he?
It's true. No, I think he's going to be in the next one. I think that the next one is going to be more like, oh wait, I'm free to.
You think they're going to let Bitterlick, a Praetorian who is literally the king's bodyguard, not guard the body of the king, and instead go on this airship? That's what I'm saying. Like, he can't stay a Praetorian.
Maybe he'll be like, I mean, I think that is protecting the Leroy, the female. I don't know the names.
The queen.
Is protecting the queen's interests the same as protecting the queen?
No, because it's a difference between protecting the queen's interests. That's what a musketeer is. Like, he's protecting Leon's interests, but like the Praetorians are the physical bodyguards.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's within Craddock's interest to have Bitterlick go along.
To be fair, he's also a spy master, so he is often not in their presence.
True. This is why you need to read more romance novels, Alan, because I feel like if you had, the answer would be yes, he'll be on the boat, obviously.
Yeah. He's gonna find a way.
I kind of want some protective dad going on with Jean-Claude being like, hey,
back off for a hot second.
Do this on the ship. Like, what are y'all doing? Like, I want the door open to y'all's cabin at all times. I don't want to walk by and see it closed. Or Impervia can't go with them.
No.
Oh, poor
God,
Jean-Claude.
no.
He's gonna have to, like, do it long distance. He's gonna have to have a long distance romance. Poor guy.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe
they'll find
Craddock
a
will
Glasswalker.
surprise us. I mean, he did not. We only see like some part of like first book characters, but he gave us fantastic characters in second book itself, and we
I
like them.
agree.
Maybe he'll surprise us in the next book. Also,
I like how fat Jean-Claude is. Like,
You know, and it really catches up to him in this one. He's like, oh no, I really did let myself go, and now I'm probably gonna die.
the amount of times Craddock compares him to a sausage being squeezed into like
when he's
Yeah,
stuck in that passageways, they have to pull him. I mean, they were like, if we kill him now, we have to pull his body.
we gotta
That
pull
will
the
be more
body
difficult.
out.
Right?
But in all seriousness, it was really nice that they avoided this like kind of weird fat shamey trope of like the fat person is the villain, or they're lazy, or they don't do things that are of value. Like, he is overweight and he has stopped doing all the things that he needs to do, but he's still smart and dedicated, and he's still someone that we love to root for, which doesn't happen a ton in fantasy. It's usually like, you know, the evil guy in Dune who's just
Yeah, and no, Craddock
And
just
he-
knows. He just knows that people, as they age, their metabolism slows down, and they get out of shape unless they are like really, really diligent about an increasingly more intense regimen to counteract the effects of age.
right. And his
Jean-Claude
part of
does
his cover for spying on people is being a lush. So he's always drinking at least a little bit. He's always got some alcohol. So he's got to have the, you know, the stomach to go along with that.
I like that he's accepted that he's not fit enough to train Murray and found somebody else to train. At the same time, he was like, is it because I'm fat or is it because I'm lazy? I mean, that.
Which one?
He's like, can I really not, or do I just not want to?
He's like, wait, I'll find this person who's 30 years older than me, and I already complain about how old I am.
But then he's like, oh man, I couldn't do this for 5 minutes anymore. Like, oh, okay. It was the right call to pawn her off on him. It's these people just feel like it's just realistic. Like, and you know, he takes tropes and plays with them and does different things that we don't really see a lot. Like you said, Anitha, he added characters in this. A lot of times when people try to add characters, you know, like, oh, here, like, will you like this one? Look at every Disney sequel. It's like, no, I don't like that one. I don't. Please bring back the old ones. But no, like, I love what he did with Marie. I love the trefoils, the trefoils. I like that Leon is now the royal mistress.
The best part, to be honest.
The Harvest King, like I've read a lot of Lovecraft, and so the Harvest King to me felt like the King in Yellow, which is this play that turns people, like, it drives people mad or whatever, and that's what it kind of felt like to me. But it turns out it's just an orgy party where people get magic syphilis that kills their powers.
Although, to be fair, there were a lot of psychiatry undertones. Maybe that's why I liked the beginning so much, is because as I was reading it, I was like, oh no, these are all of the horrible things that my profession has legitimately done to people over the course of time. Like when they were doing the lobotomies, and I was like, oh no, this is like the worst of our history coming to life.
Taking off.
Wait, so they took off people's skulls and then they gave them weird potions that gave people magic syphilis?
No, but they would zap lobes. They would zap parts of their brain.
They would zap parts of their brain.
Thank you, Mike. Yes. We didn't talk about the golden tongues, so that's a weird power, and I'm glad he limited it because I was like, if you can like tell and make people believe anything you want, like that's too powerful. They can't affect themselves, which is awesome. That they have to always have a partner because they can't have the glamour on themselves.
The hypnosis part was cool too, like when he put that memory or video or whatever it was of them
on the coin,
but then they actually get like sucked into it and it's hard for them to pull themselves out. That was an interesting layer.
That was really cool. Oh, that thing. Oh yeah, like the,
oh god, that was incessant. The last few pages was kind of just like, okay, a bit much.
Yeah, well, reading the back of the third book, like reading the blurb of the third book, like this is gonna be one of the main issues, that voice in her head. I don't know what, but
There's another fantasy series that does this, and I can't say which one because then it would obviously be a spoiler. But I was not a big fan of it in that series either, where there's like suddenly something in your head, and then you have to sort out like why it's there and what it is.
This wasn't a self-pub one, was it?
No.
Okay, not the one I'm thinking.
Yeah, don't be like, this wasn't this series, so she can say yes, which negates the fact that she didn't want to name it.
Did this series have a blue cover?
Stop it.
Wheel of Time has similar thing where some old characters, wheel turns and some old characters born, old heroes born. So these kids can remember that old characters' memories. So they have that little voice in the head, especially like two of the main characters. I like that. It isn't in same creepy way, but in Wheel of Time, I like that part.
Having played D&D forever, sentient items do this. Like sentient items, like talk to you. But we know it's the remnants of
the
Brunella,
parasite,
of the little parasite thing that. Who was in the barrel? Was that Impervia? Who was in the barrel?
No, wasn't it Serene? Yeah.
Serene, yeah, because she popped out and blood shadowed the crap out of people, like bah.
Yeah. After Marie saved her, because she could save her from everybody else's blood shadow because no one could touch her, and she was like, "This girl is amazing."
That was such a cool.
Very cool. Even at the end, when Serene called Isabel, she asked a question: "What do I do with what is that? That power metal rod or something?"
Oh, the syphilis. What do I do with the syphilis?
Magic syphilis.
Yeah. So everyone, Marie was the only one who said, who told her, you don't like this because you remember how it affected your son, your daughter-in-law, your grandson, all these people. Marie was the only one who told her that. That was really cool. Her perspective.
But I like that Isabel was like, yeah, throw it off the cliff. Get rid of it. Like, destroy it. Like, you can tell yourself that you're going to keep it just to stop. Like, but as long as you have it, there's people right now planning to steal it from you.
It.
Yeah. Like get rid of it. And she's absolutely correct. And I'm glad that that's where Serene was leaning. But she had people be like, "Oh, well, no, save it because then you're protecting the empire." That's true until someone steals it.
I like that it was almost like a personality test. Like, I'm going to ask you a question. You better give me the answer that I'm hoping for.
Yeah, exactly.
I love about the magic syphilis. Still, I loved the comparisons to WMDs. Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah. The just kind of like, if this is something that we're going to discover, we're going to discover it, and undoubtedly, hopefully, we're going to be more responsible when we get to it. We might not be, but probably not going to be. But we're still going to have some sort of foundation for dealing with this thing at some sort of point. Whereas at this point in time, we don't.
Yeah.
And also now for the rest of my life, I will think of magic syphilis as a weapon of mass destruction.
That's what it is. For the noble families, it is.
Really, what they need is magic penicillin. And the explanation that Isabel gave made sense because she's right. If this had come about naturally, they would naturally, in all likelihood, have something that could help, because the process of discovering it would tell you things about it that just being given something cannot tell you. Like, the scientific process leads you to solutions just by virtue of like working your way through it, which is why being handed something is never going to be as effective or as helpful as working through it yourself.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting point that she made too, because the queen even said, like, this will probably come back. They made it once, they can make it again. And she's like, yes, but we need to know how it was made. It's not enough to just have something. You need to understand, which ties into like Isabel's whole thing, her personality, the way that she thinks about the world, the science that underpins everything. It's a really good balance of science and magic.
Yeah. I like that Bitterlick is okay with her being a witch who likes physics and math. And
a physics witch.
Yeah. Woman, it's so weird that women can't do math. Like, oh, she does math. It's like illegal for them to be physicists.
And it's so cruel that if the kids or their for noble families, if their sons or daughters doesn't have that sanguinary power, they have to go away. They don't inherit anything. That's so cruel, actually. At least one good thing out of that, they're more accepting now in their society.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I felt like wasn't really talked about. Like, so the trauma that's comes from basically being like, oh yeah, by the way, you're a royal, but you have no soul. But also having that happen to one of your children, your favorite children, you're like, oh yeah, your son's going to hell now because he doesn't have these magic powers.
Yeah.
Now,
And
let me ask if they discuss this. Can you give the powers to royal people? Like everyone that got a power, as far as I understand, was a non power.
Presumably, yes. So
okay.
So
are
because
you sure? Because I thought it was just nobles who had not.
Like none of the Claiborne. You don't hear about any of the Claiborne.
So
Yeah.
the Claiborne can be given gifts.
Can they? How?
Yeah.
How do you know
so with the whole lobotomy thing, presumably, because that's what happened with Lyle. Remember? So he didn't just have. He had the specific piece of his brain that was for the blood shadow, and that was simply activated. But the other pieces of his brain that correspond to the other powers had to be inserted into his brain.
Yeah, but they were taken from other noble families. The only people who can use magic are the noble families. That's what I'm
But
saying.
I guess you could take one of those from the noble and transplant it into a Claiborne. It's just why would you? Why would they?
Can you? Like
I don't think we saw anything that would say we can't.
But they did talk about every Claiborne wants to be a sanguine. Every, it wants to have that magic power. Now, if it comes out, they did talk about that.
Yeah, see, that's another like potential horrible thing of Lyle's thing is like all of a sudden, if it can give Claiborne powers, then there's no difference between which is why it makes me think that Lyle only wanted it to be still royal family.
I think he did only want it to be that. I think that was his intention, but that I guess we don't have a definitive answer about whether or not.
I love populists that don't actually want it for the people, just his people.
But it was nice that the Claiborne loved their king at the end, and they are the ones who stood up for him because he was the one like out on the battlefield with them.
My gosh, I forgot about that. Yes,
Jean-Claude telling all the stories. Like, remember when he saved you from this ditch, and remember when he carried this person this far? And I was like, it was very great coat's moment. It was very Falco thing to do.
Oh yeah, I love that go ahead, Anitha. Sorry.
If it was made to a show or a movie, that would be like, a fantastic scene, actually. Jean-Claude inspiring everyone for a revolution, small revolution.
Yeah, and it finally gave us a window into why Leroy is so popular. Like he's been monarch for forever, and we're kind of hinted at that he's fair. His rage knows no bounds, but he is generally fair. And here we see why the system is loyal to him because he fought on the front lines. Like he fought with these people as the king, and certainly that is not a common thing. And so I just love those different stories of Leroy saving people. Like, that is freaking awesome. Where they were turning against. I love the big like talk like this guy. Like I love that guy because he's like, oh, like no, like are you kidding? Yeah, like this is not right. Like look what they're. And that's where Lyle made that. I think that's one of Lyle's crucial mistakes is humiliating Leon like that, needing the humiliation. He should have just executed him. But needing that humiliation, that was what Jean-Claude's able to draw on. Be like, really? Like you may not like Leon, but like he doesn't deserve this. Like, come on. Like he was, and they're like, you know what? That's right. Like, screw this guy. I love it. And we're rooting for the Royals. That's another weird thing.
Yeah.
When do you root for the Royals in fantasy? We're supposed to root for the guys overthrowing the Royals. This appeals to the monarchist in me, like these books.
I know.
Mike is also right. The gray spiders when they come out, because it's like the same scene with when Jean-Claude is like inspiring the Claiborne is when the gray spiders come too. And it was a good callback to the beginning.
Oh,
when they
that
were getting-
grandmom army. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Hold on, what are the Grey Spiders?
They're like the
Alan,
grandmother brigade.
it was
The
mentioned
widows.
that one of the
Yes.
widow army, as they get trained and they fought in some battle and they were still there. So that army, Impervia brings them and they.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, the
I
military
almost
widows.
thought Impervia was dead. I'm glad to see her back. Actually,
Me
she
too,
fell in
that
some
was-
kind of wall. Well, right?
I like that he has, because we've talked about this. I've talked about this and about other books about how people die, and we just kind of brush over it. I like that Craddock deals with Jean-Claude's guilt with the friend that he had, like the Admiral friend, like literally died because he was doing Jean-Claude a favor,
Yeah.
and that's
he made sure that. Sorry, Ellen. Go
No,
ahead.
I agree. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, he made sure that he got his big statue, and we're gonna have a huge hat on it. Like, I love that. But like, Jean-Claude is affected by this. Like, how many people are gonna give their lives for, like, why am I more important? I'm not, but Isabel, even why is she more important? Well, because she's important to me. And Jean-Claude realizes that, but I don't know. It's a complicated thing that I thought Craddock handled pretty well, and I love the discussion about the statue and the hat, because his friend died just doing him a favor. Ugh.
Jean-Claude's guilt was a big character in this story because the whole thing between him and Impervia, where she had lost her baby, and he carried that around because he had this, just one thought, being like, I'd be a bad dad. I don't want to be a dad. And then it happens. And for his entire life, he carries this like almost delusional level of guilt, being like, I killed this baby because for 1 second when I found out I was going to be a father, I thought that I would be bad at it and I didn't want it, and so it's automatically my fault that this happened.
And he was happy when she had a miscarriage. That, I mean, Impervia was hurt by that, and Jean-Claude knows that now Isabel is like a daughter to her, and Impervia will have a problem with that. That guilt was really well done, actually, between those two.
But I love that Impervia is like, I'm sorry, like, that is so insulting that you think that I'm so weak that I can't get over that. Like,
Right?
Really? How patronizing of you. And I was like, holy crap. It kind of is. Like, you understand where Jean-Claude is. He feels really bad, but it's like, why do you think that my happiness in my life is dependent on you? Like, because how often do we think about that? I know that I have stayed in a bad relationship before because I thought it would, the person that if I broke up with them would be very sad. It's like, how arrogant do you have to be to think that people can't move on with their lives? Like, it entirely revolves around you. You are the linchpin. And now there are crazy people for which that is true. But
it's fair, yes.
I think ordinarily it's like, they're going to be fine. Like, they're going to be.
And I think she was honestly more upset about the fact that she lost someone in her life that she cared about, and he didn't come back and talk to her or be her friend or anything else because of something that meant, I think, a lot more to him than it did to her. And I don't mean that she didn't care about losing her baby. I think that she thought about it, as a rational human being, being like, sometimes these things happen and it's no one's fault. Whereas Jean-Claude was like, I wanted this to happen. Now I'm happy that it happened, so I must punish myself for eternity.
Yeah. I love that. I thought that was a really, I don't know, like, it was good. Like, go. That was very girl boss of all of the. What baby dies, guys? What are we talking about here? What baby? What baby?
I was looking at Matt's question there, where Isabel killed her brother and sister-in-law and the baby.
Oh yes, the freaking Guillaume. What a douche! What a freaking tool!
He's the worst.
But in answer to his question, it wasn't actually Isabel. That was Immaculata that killed her, I believe.
I think she did not completely trust that Isabel was under their influence. That's how I thought, actually. She needed that.
So too.
Yeah.
It was Immaculata cleaning up loose ends, basically.
Yeah, Immaculata used Guillaume and her sister-in-law, but like, No, sorry, Lyle was using them, but Immaculata was like, I'm not using morons, like actual physical morons.
Yeah,
And so, she just offed them.
You are worth nothing.
But yes, I was very shocked.
Agreed,
It's like, oh, this is what we're doing? We're just gonna kill him? Okay. Like, I mean, I hate Guillaume and the other lady's a shrew, but the baby, I was like, oh, that's
that was a very gruesome moment when
Immaculata's serious business. Like,
didn't she like
serious
stab all three of them in one shot or something like that? Something really anime for a second.
The baby was a little difficult for me too. I mean, even Isabel did not come out of that even after killing the baby. That was like, I know she did not care about her brother and her sister-in-law, but
Yes.
Yeah, she was this was right after she got subsumed.
Parasited or whatever.
Yeah. So she was, this is where she had fled into the knife. So she is under control here.
Did anybody else, like, to go way back, speaking of Immaculata, when she did the blood test on her mouth, I don't know if anybody else felt this way, but I was instantly like, this is suspicious. Nobody ever does. Because all I could think about was like the diabetes, like blood sugar check. I was like, no one would check their blood sugar on their mouth. Like, she's clearly like, something is suspicious about this. Why is she doing it there? And then when it came back and it was like, that's the only bit of skin that she had left on her body, I was like, vindication. I knew that was so strange.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that at all.
I did not think that. Go ahead, Alan.
No, I'm not stammering because I have a more point. I have stammering because I don't know what to say. I didn't see it coming. I didn't even register it.
I did not expect that Immaculata, Brunella is Immaculata, but I definitely questioned Brunella's loyalty. Actually, I thought she's working for Immaculata or somebody, but I did not think they're the same person.
Yeah, I didn't.
That did not tell me she was the bone person. Like, I was not. Yeah. It was not like, oh, this is exactly who she is. But I was like, this is weird. Like, no one would ever do this.
They gotta be family or something.
Yeah, like, and it was she was golden tongued, right? That's why we couldn't see her.
Yeah,
and so she had to look down at the water, the reflection. And I love that. And then she's like, too clever by half, sister. Too clever by half.
Yeah, that part was really good.
Yeah.
We never figured out who the golden tongue was, right?
He died. It's the dwarf, and then his partner who was killed.
His partner.
But when did the dwarf die?
Remember, they were that's the beginning. They were there in the inn at the beginning.
Yeah, but when they were in the graveyard, who was golden tonguing? Golden. That's kind of a weird verb, anyways.
I think the charm was still on her.
Yeah, but the dwarf wasn't dead, so it was still the dwarf, and he wasn't dead.
Correct. The dwarf was not dead. His partner was.
Yeah.
How long does a charm stay, I guess, is the question. Like, once you cast it on someone.
They had charmed something for her. Things that
so the dwarf didn't have active control over it.
Correct. They had met with them to buy a charm to change their appearance.
Yeah. Like a hair piece or something.
Yeah. That's
why. I mean, I don't think dwarf is the one who charmed her. It could be Lyle, because he has golden tongue powers. I don't think it was said that who gave that charm to her.
I don't think Lyle had the control for it.
Yeah, but that's why she was there at the beginning, wasn't it? Like, she went to meet with him, like at that when they were in the back room, like right at the beginning of the book, like when the Sanguinaire is there.
Yeah, that's he was there where Jean-Claude was going to investigate, because we know that's where we heard the name Immaculata first.
Yeah. And she needed that charm immediately because she wanted to meet with Isabel as quickly as she could. Like, she sent out, it was Isabel who was cautious and sent somebody first to go and meet her and like set up all of these steps to try to prevent exactly what happened. But I guess she had to be prepared immediately.
It's so good.
Yeah, it was good.
And I like that scene at the end where she kicked that barrel which Serene was in, so that water will be on the floor, and Immaculatus will be everyone can see her Lyle's appearance. I did not think. I was like, why is she kicking the barrel? That was so cool. I mean,
that's right, because Lyle was like this big, like, Giga Chad sexual magnetism, like
in the 300 movie.
Yes, and instead he was just like.
Yeah. Instead, he had encephalitis from all the brain surgery. was done to him.
For real. Like, oh my gosh, how crazy.
So-
So what are none of y'all have started the third book or have heard anything about the third book? Cool.
Nope. I don't read. I'm not foolish enough to read the back of books, Alan.
Okay, well, I read the back of books. I'm just.
Are
I'm
you calling
predicting-
Alan fool?
What are
Yes.
predictions? He's not. That's foolish. What are predictions of that we have for book 3?
More magic that is not one of the 7 or whatever. More wind color magic, which I would like to point out. Wind color is the only magic without a downside that we know
Ooh,
of.
we did not think about that at all.
That's why it's the best.
Oh, I guess we don't know their downside.
There
And-
is no downside,
Hold
obviously.
on. The Kindly Crusade. Did the Wind Callers betray Maximus?
Yes.
I think
Why?
so.
As far as we know.
Yeah, but he says there was a reason.
Yeah.
I
We
do
are
not-
Probably
never
'cause the
told that. I
Phoenicians
think
were
we'll find out
douches.
that.
I thought the Bach guy or whatever, the Wind Color guy. I thought
Doc,
he
Highland
explained.
Doc.
He didn't
Doc,
explain, but
I
but
thought
he-
really. I thought he explained that
I could be misremembering.
that was trash. That
He might have mentioned it right. Didn't he mention something right before he died, though? That kind
Did
of.
he die?
He did die. Yeah. Finice killed, or what's her face? Pina
Yeah.
Colada killed him.
Pina colada.
I don't-
I don't
what
know.
Master Sal said: the new continent, and it will not be empty. Correct.
Oh, there's no chance it's empty. No.
Oh, you know what's going to happen? We're going to have Bitterlich, and we're going to have a new love interest, not Julio. We're going to have a douchey wind color love interest.
Stop it. Stop it. No, there's not. There's not.
He leans on doors and wears black because he is the Black Wind.
Now, let me ask you guys. It's the third book, so all bets are off. Will Jean-Claude die?
I feel like Craddock could do it. He has proven to us that he can do something dark.
That's what I'm saying. Like, no one
I
thought
think
Jean-Claude was
Murray
going to
will
die in
die.
book 2, but book 3, will he die? What do you think, Anitha?
Either Murray or Jean-Claude will die. My bet.
I
is
don't
on
think Jean-Claude's going to die because I don't think it depends on how it starts, right? I think if there's we need to be more independent type of deal, sure, he'll die. But I don't think that's set up at all. Like them being so dependent on each other, they need to split up and go their own ways, and she needs to be her own thing. I don't think that's been set up at all for her final arc.
Yeah, but you don't
he's
think
very trusting of her to do what to do what's best for her.
he won't yes, but I think he could easily give his life to save Isabel. Like,
Absolutely.
he's tried to do it repeatedly. He just keeps surviving. So
It really depends on what purpose it serves.
yeah,
And I think
think
Craddock's a
Isabel-
good enough writer that I would trust him to set up the purpose.
Yeah. I think that
think they-
Bitterlich could die also, Sal. Like, I'm also of that persuasion. I don't think Isabel will die. Isabel
No, I
won't
don't think
die.
so either.
Though if he killed Isabel, holy crap. Like, oh my gosh, like balls of steel if you kill Isabel in this. in this
Right.
freaking-
I also
Right.
think Marie is safe, or at least I hope so.
Yeah.
She had such a horrible life as a
Yeah, she
blood
had
hollow.
gone through a
Like,
lot.
let her
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. I think that it's entire I think Isabel's last arc is related to her alter ego and her coming out as
The math
a smart person.
Yeah, I think we'll find more about what happened, like how many years back, and we'll see more people living on that nowhere land, uncharted sky.
Isabel Math Witch is the subtitle according to Pete.
Yes. Isabel Math Witch. I agree.
The first one is insane clock man. The second one is magic syphilis. The third one is Math Witch.
Yes.
That's the trilogy.
No, book one is cattle breeding program. Book 2 is magic syphilis. Book 3 is Math Witch. Awesome. So I am reading. I have to read this arc that I'm reading, Judas Blossom, which is actually pretty good.
Good.
I'm on the struggle bus with reading right now. Like, I want to read nonfiction. Like, I just want to read about Greece and Rome. That's all I want to do. Or I just want to read like Gaijin or I don't know. I'm on the struggle bus with wanting to read anything really. But I am going to read this. I specifically didn't pick it up before this discussion. Because theoretically I was supposed to have read the third book this month, and I'm not going to. So is there any way y'all can read book 3 early in July so that we can have a discussion like before the end of July, since I'm theoretically supposed to have another discussion on a different read along book at the end of July? So yeah, I'm going to read it as soon as I finish Judas Blossom. It will be the next book that I read.
I can read it early July.
But you don't have to. I mean, you don't have to read it right then. I'm just saying, like, within a couple weeks.
I will say that I have another book that takes precedence that you've probably never heard of called The Hammer. We
are planning to read Hammer first.
Help me if you don't read the dang Hammer. Read the Hammer.
Look, I'm taking it with me on vacation. I have at one point I have a flight that I get there at 10 a.m. and I don't get to the place I'm going until 4. So
Sal, we are. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm going to also be reading that in July. That's why I want to read this third book early, since I missed the window here in June.
How early do you mean? Because we are planning to read Hammer first thing in July. I can read this book like second week.
Yeah, just read. That's basically what I'm saying. It's like read it after the Hammer if you can.
Yeah,
cool.
No, I can do that.
Awesome.
Also, I would like to say, based on the Magic Map Computer Station comment, there was a mini Magic Map Computer Station in this book at the end. One of the queens had their own, and I was like, no, get it out. Like, take it away before they even start talking about it.
No,
we want more magic spreadsheets.
But it wasn't as good as the one in the previous book.
Except it was better because they commented on it and then moved on, which made it infinitely better.
That's true. So my dogs are barking because if I leave them outside long enough, they just start barking for no reason. So I'm going to go attend to them. Anyway, thank you guys for joining in the comments. I'm going to shut this down here and go get those dogs out. So any final comments? No?
Win color supremacy.
All right, cool. Go ahead.
I wanted to mention one point. See, generally, it's a trope actually where this bodyguard or musketeer character, they love one person, like their daughter, or in this case Isabel, and they completely miss out on having that consistency in their behavior. But here it's not the case. Craddock continued to have that consistency in John Clett's character. His love for Isabel made him more empathetic to every girl. He wants to save every girl. In the first scene itself, where he found that who is that? What is that guy's name who is operating on this innocent woman?
I don't remember.
Okay. So
the doctor dude.
He immediately thinks about Isabel when he saw that creepy priest torturing a girl. He was like, he did not even hesitate to save that girl.
Pushed him down the stairs.
Continued to show that consistency. I mean, it made his love for Isabel made him empathetic towards every girl. That I really liked.
Yeah.
My final thoughts. I'm going to give some medical advice, which I don't usually do on the internet. But if you are attending a magical orgy, please wear a magical condom to prevent magical syphilis.
Terrible. It was terrible. Terrible.
Sarah,
you're welcome.
The one thing they haven't invented in this great age of inventions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway. I definitely did think about how did Grand Leon survive all these years by, having unprotected sex with so many people. They even maintained a registry actually. Who is going into his room, who is that is actually so wild. They had to maintain a registry to keep track of his.
They have to track the scions, like they have to track the descendants.
Do you think that there are alternative uses for a blood shadow that are more physical?
What?
Like magic condoms.
Yeah.
Y'all quit being gross. All right. Thanks for joining us, commenters. Ending broadcast now.